to you watching this video. So for this video, we're going to discuss about construction engineering and project management. So this is CE3251 of the Civil and Geodetic Engineering Department of St. Louis University in Architecture. So at the end of this module or course rather, you should be able to, number one, demonstrate the ability to prepare and update construction schedule as based on industry standards. Number two, demonstrate the ability to prepare work programs as based on industry standards. Number three, describe the construction methods and activities, equipment, materials, and manpower requirements for road construction projects as based on standards of government line agencies. And number four, accurately observe and apply best construction management and planning practices as based on industry standards and compliant to applicable laws and ordinances. Okay, Module 1, Introduction. So, construction project management. So, construction management or construction project management, or we call it the CPM, is an overall planning, coordination, and control of a project from beginning to completion. I repeat, it is an overall planning, coordination, and a control of project from start to finish. So CPM is aimed at meeting a client's requirement in order to produce a functionally and financially viable project. So CPM is a project management that applies to the construction sector. So the construction industry is composed of five sectors. So we have the residential, commercial, heavy civil, industrial, and environmental sector. So a construction manager holds the same responsibilities and completes the same process in each sector. So if you are a construction manager, so your function for all of these five sectors and the responsibilities are the same. Okay, same process. So all that separates a construction manager in one sector from one in another is the knowledge of the construction site. Because for each of these five sectors of the construction industry, we have different methodologies. We have of course different scope of work. Okay, so for residential structure is different from a commercial structure. Okay, so residential is smaller compared to a commercial structure. Likewise with uh, other sectors. Okay, so therefore the knowledge for in the construction site is different. So this may include different types of equipment, materials, subcontractors, and possibly locations. Okay, so a contractor is assigned to a construction project once the design has been completed by an architect or is still in the progress. So this is done by going through a bidding process with different contractors. The contractor is selected by using one of the three selection methods. So we have the low bid selection, best value selection, and mm, wait, low bid, best value selection. Anyways, we're going to discuss that in the latter part. Okay. So a construction manager should have the ability to handle public safety, time management, decision making, mathematics, and human resources. So overall, a construction manager should have the ability to oversee the whole project itself. Okay, so macro and micro managing. So what are the function? The function of a construction management typically includes the following. Number one, specifying project objectives and plans, including delineation of scope, budgeting, scheduling, setting performance requirements, and selecting project participants. Okay, so like what we have said a while ago, it is from start to finish. So you need to determine what are your objectives, the plans. Okay, so it includes the scope of work, budgeting, and scheduling of different resources, setting performance requirements, what needs to be done, and who are the ones that we are assigning to do the work. Number two, maximizing the resources efficiently through procurement of labor, materials, and equipment. So, in order to do so, you should have, uh, of course, you should have the experience, and you should also have a plan. So, in order to do this, okay. Number three, implementing various operations through proper coordination and control of planning, design, estimating, contracting, and construction in the entire process. So, implementing of various operations. So, hindi lang po isa yung operating guidelines natin. So, we have different operational guidelines that would best fit the situation, the work, and the environmental condition. When we say environmental condition, everything that affects the work, may it be human environment, may it be the ecological environment, and so on. Number four, developing effective communications and mechanism for resolving conflicts. So in order to resolve a conflict, no, you should be a good communicator and mediator at the same time. Because if you cannot communicate the concerns of different parties which are involved in um, the problem, then it would be a difficult one, or it would be a difficult process to solve the conflict. Okay, so as a project manager or construction management, you should be effective in communication. Okay, so construction manager. So what are the required knowledge? So if you are a construction manager, like what I've said, you should be able to have the experience. Okay? Hindi ka pwedeng maging construction manager if you are still new in the industries, because you do not know yet the ins and the outs of the industry. Okay? So what are the required knowledge? So you need to have a knowledge in construction and building. Okay? So everything that involves construction and building, you should have an experience of how to oversee things, on how to see things truly, on how to manage micro and um, macro organizations. Okay. Next, you need to have a knowledge on technology. Of course, we are already in the age of technology. That's why, as a construction manager, it is your duty to be updated with the latest technology. Why? Because these technologies are made to make things easier and to help. This will help us achieve our goals or our objectives easier and faster. Next, you should have a knowledge on public safety. As a project or construction manager, it is your job to keep everyone safe. Okay? Like what we have said, safety is our utmost priority. Next is customer service. So, as a construction manager, you are not just on the side of the contractor. You are also required to deliver what what is to deliver the required deliverables to the client. Okay, and that is customer service. And yeah, you should be a good communicator here. Next is human resources. Why do we say human resources? First, you need to choose people that will be uh, doing the said job. Okay. Next is another part of human resources is that you will be handling people. If you are to finish a project or to do a project, it involves people, and people have different personalities. That's why you need to have a good communication skills and at the same time yung pakikisama in order for you to handle them efficiently and properly. Okay? And of course, you need to have a skill and knowledge in mathematics. Okay? Next would be time management. This is a very crucial one because, like what we have said um, in our live discussion, time is equivalent to money. If we are wasting time, therefore we are wasting money. If we are saving time, we are saving money. And if we can manage our time properly, we can um, we can follow the schedule. We can allocate the resources efficiently and properly, and at the same time, we can avoid delays. Okay, and you should have also a good skill and abilities in negotiating. Take note, in the industry, you are not the only um, skilled person out there. Okay, so if there will be, for example, there will be a project bidding, you should know how to negotiate in order to get the project. Okay, don't worry, we'll be tackling that in depth in the coming module. So next is you should be a good decision maker given the circumstances, given the available resources, okay, at the time possible. So you should make a good decision out of the available resources, okay? And you should have a good problem solving skill. Okay. So the construction manager offers advice uncolored by any conflicting interest on matters such as. So when we say uncolored by any conflicting interest, as a construction manager, you can be on the side of the contractor. Now, if you are on the side of the contractor, okay, so you should be fair, and you should also see the point of view of the client. Now, if you are on the client, you should also see the point of view of the contractor. Okay? And that is without biases. Okay. So optimum use of available funds. When we say optimum, it is the um, best way possible of the use of available funds. Okay, or it is the most efficient use of the funds. Control the scope of the work. So you should also be uh, offering advice on the control of the scope of the work. Next is the project scheduling. So you should also have say on on the project scheduling so that we can meet our desired goal. Like for example, the desire of the project is to be delivered by 2 years. So kailangan pag-usapan yan and kailangan napaplano, and as a construction manager, dapat meron kang advice. Okay, nakakapag-advise ka ng iyong um, point of view from experience and knowledge. Okay? Next is optimum use of design and construction firms' skill and talents. Okay? Next is avoidance of delays, changes, and disputes. So, ahead of time, dapat nakikita mo na yung possible na delays, what might be the cause of delay. And next is to deliver a quality output. Okay? Next is optimum flexibility in contracting and procurement. And next is cash flow management. So you should have a good advice on this. Okay? Next is comprehensive management on every stage of the project, beginning with the original concept and project definition, yields the greatest possible benefit to the owner from the construction management. Okay? So, dapat yung main purpose natin as a construction manager or construction management is to give the greatest benefit to the owner. Okay, but we should not compromise as well also the benefit that the firm should be receiving. It should be a balanced one. Okay, hindi naman pwedeng talo si client, talo din si contractor, or hindi naman pwedeng naabuso si client tapos hindi naman magandang naabuso si firm. Okay, so as time progresses beyond the pre-design phase, the construction management ability to effect cost saving diminishes. Okay? Because as time passes by, yan, pumapasok na yung mga problema, then nagkakaroon tayo ng sometimes unforeseen cause of delays or problems. So, nadidiminish yung ability to effect cost savings. Okay? So, the agency of the construction management can represent the owner by helping to select the design team as well as the construction team and manage the design, preventing scope creep, helping the owners stay within a predetermined budget by performing value engineering cost or benefit analysis, engineering benefit analysis or cost analysis, and best value comparison. The software application field of construction collaboration technology has been developed to apply information technology to the construction management process. Okay, so as a construction management, you can help or you should help your client in order to see the engineering side. Okay, and at the same time, best interest ni client na magamit ng tama or ma-optimize yung kanyang resources para ma-deliver yung kanyang gustong ma-deliver or deliverables. Okay? Okay, so a construction management at risk. So construction management at risk is a delivery method which entails a commitment by the construction manager to deliver the project within a guaranteed maximum price in most cases. So when we say guaranteed maximum price, it is the ceiling price. Okay? So whatever would be the cost or costings of the general contractor or the ones that we have awarded our contract with, whatever the price, yun lang yung babayaran ni client. Okay? So for example, we have a 4 million contract. So sa 4 million contract na yon, kahit anong mangyari, kung makatipid man si contractor or lumagpas si contractor sa 4 million na budget, yun lang yung babayaran ni client. Guaranteed maximum price. Ibig sabihin, ang ilalabas lang ni client is 4 million. Dapat sa 4 million na yon, whether or not kumita si contractor, ma-deliver niya yung deliverables. Okay? The construction manager acts as a consultant to the owner in the development and the design phase. So as a consultant, it is the role of the construction manager to help the client see, like what I've said a while ago, see the construction side in the engineering perspective. And of course, in the economic side. Okay? So, often referred as pre-construction services. So, tutulungan mo si client mo, i-walk through mo, yun yung term. I-walk through mo si client sa project. Okay? So, ano bang mga mangyayari? How will it go? Ano ba yung mga dapat i-consider? Yan. So, but as the equivalent of a general contractor during the construction phase, when a construction manager is bound to a GMP, the most fundamental character of the relationship is changed. Okay, so when you are bound uh, in wait, ano yun? When you are bound to a GMP, the most fundamental character of the relationship is change. Of course, you need to be not just a negotiator, but of course an advocate of your company. Okay. So in addition, To acting the owner's in the owner's interest, the construction manager must manage and control construction costs to not exceed the GMP, which would be a financial hit to the CM company. Okay, so yan yung risk. Okay, and planning and scheduling. So project management methodology. So breakdown structure, work breakdown structure. So project network of activities. So what are the things that we do in the project network activities. So we have what we call the critical path method or the CPM. Okay? So dalawa yung ibig sabihin natin ng CPM, construction project management. Next is the critical path method. So when we say critical path method, these are the critical activities that needs to be done on schedule. No ifs, no buts, no delays. Okay, it should be on schedule because this defines the duration of the project. Okay, next is resource management. Okay, when we say resource management, we should have a proper allocation of our resources because we cannot, for example, we have a project, we cannot order everything at once. That is very impractical. So we will be ordering our materials, equipments, yeah, materials and equipments ahead of time when it is already ahead of time of the said schedule. Like for example, for a set of activities, it should be done by next week. So what we're going to do is we're going to procure those materials ahead of time. Okay? Pero pero yun nga, hindi natin dapat orderin lahat ng materials for the project at once. Okay? Una, hindi siya practical. Bakit? Kasi baka masira yung ating materials due to wear and tear if we do not have proper storage facility. Pangalawa, pwedeng magkaroon ng nakawan. Okay? That is a common problem on site. Nagkakaroon tayo ng nakawan, nagkakawalaan. Okay? So, hindi na iiwasan yan. Hindi na iwasan. Para iwasan yan, we should allocate our resources properly. So, we should have a resource management. And next is resource leveling. Okay? So, when we say resource leveling, it is the balancing of our resources. So, we should make it efficient. Okay? So, yeah. Don't worry, we will go in depth of this when we are already doing our critical path or uh, our schedule. Okay, so the work of architect and an engineer. So work inspection, change order, review payment, materials and samples, shop drawings, and 3D images. So these are the things that are being overviewed, okay, or inspected by an architect or engineer. Okay. Now for the agency of the construction management, construction cost management is a fee-based service in which the construction manager or the CM is responsible exclusively to the owner and acts in the owner's interest at every stage of the project. So you are on the side of the client. Okay? So ikaw yung i-hire ni client, iba pa yung pag-awardan ng contract. So ikaw yung i-hire ni client kasi ikaw yung knowledgeable at since ikaw yung knowledgeable, ikaw yung mag-walk through kay client sa project. Because take note, yung client mo, for if it is a residential, si client mo walang knowledge sa construction side. If it is a commercial structure, si client mo is just interested on the business side. Okay? or the economic side. So it is your job to walk through your client on the process of the engineering uh, side. Okay? So the construction manager offers advice uncolored by any conflicting interest or no biases on matters such as optimum use of available funds. Wala kang dapat nag-a-advise ka kay client without any biases. If for example, yung kakilala mo yung nasa general constructor side, okay? Nag-a-advise ka sa scope of work, sa scheduling, optimum use of design and construction firms' skill and talents, avoidance of delays, changes and disputes, enhancing project design and construction quality. Okay, so again, if you are already a construction manager, you should already have the experience and the skill. Okay, because you are already seeing the project as a whole, and kaya mo ring tingnan yung project in a micro perspective. Okay, so construction management, accounting and operational for contractors, building and civil. So duties: a construction project manager sets up the estimates, the budgets and construction timetable from the client for the client, and develop the construction strategy. So he selects the subcontractors and workers and provides required explanations for builders and other professionals associated with the project, coordinating and collaborating with the architects, engineers, and specialists. The construction manager also ensures the construction project complies with all building codes. Okay? May mga building codes po tayo na dapat sundin. Okay? And any other legal and regulatory requirements. When delays or problems occur, as they always do, yes, they always occur. Okay? When you are already on the site. The construction manager is the project's first responder, ready to make the changes required to move the project past the issue. So as a construction manager, it is your duty to solve the problem, and in doing so, dapat you need to consider the best interest of the project itself. Okay? Obtaining the project. Bids. Okay, so how are we going to obtain the project? Paano natin makukuha yung contract? Nakukuha natin yung contract through bidding. Okay? But there are times na kung may kakilala, if it is a private project, no? And it is a small project, or for example, small project like for example residential. So pag may kakilala doon na, minsan doon na nire-refer or pumupunta na lang yung mga clients sa mga firms. Okay? But if it is a big project, no, most often than not, nagkakaroon niya ng bidding. So a bid is given to the owner by construction manager that are willing to complete their project. A bid tells the owner how much money they should spend or expect to pay the construction management company in order to complete the project. Okay, so sa bidding nalalaman natin na kung magkano yung dapat bayaran ni client sa contractor. Okay, so there are two types of bid. So we have the open bid. So an open bid is used for public projects. So any and all contractors are allowed to submit their bid due to public advertising if you are not yet banned. Okay? So may mga construction firm kasi na nakaban na due to history of not delivering delivering the quality or not finishing the project. Okay? So may mga binaban na ang uh, sa mga bidding. Next is closed bid. A closed bid is used for private projects. A selection of contractors are sent an invitation for bid, so only them can submit a bid for specified project. Okay, so for a closed bid, not everyone are welcome. So if you are the construction management, so you are going to choose, you can choose whom company you think can deliver the project. So sila yung sasendan mo ng invitation, and pag nag-appear sila, they will give their price. Okay? Now, how are we going to select kung sino or kanino mapupunta yung contract? So, meron tayong tinatawag na low bid selection, best value selection, and qualifications-based selection. Ito yung naputol kanina. So, sa low bid selection, this selection focuses on the price of project. Multiple construction management companies submit a bid to the owner that is the lowest amount they are willing to do for the job. Then the owner usually chooses the company with lowest bid to complete the job for them. So for a low bid selection, for example, may mga nagsubmit na ng proposal nila. You have 3.7, let's say 3.7 million, 3.75 million, 3.8 million, 3.65 million, and so on. So if it would be a low bid selection, as a construction management, you are going to select the lowest value, which in our case is 3.65 million. Okay? Next is best value selection. So this selection focuses on both the price and qualifications of the contractors submitting bids. So this means the owner chooses or choose the constructor with the best prices and best qualification. Now, for example, sabihin natin, sige, tapusin natin. The owner decides by using the request for proposal or RFP, which provides the owner with the contract's exact form of scheduling and budgeting that the contractor expect to use for the project. So sa RFP, nandyan yung plano nung nagbid. So best value selection. Kung titignan, kung ikaw si client, titignan mo yung price, then titignan mo yung plan. So, hindi porket ikaw yung lowest price, ikaw na yung mapipili agad. It can be a case na you are the third to the lowest price, but you have the best plan compared to other bidders. So, ikaw yung mapipili. So, that is best value selection. Okay? Next would be qualification-based selection. So, this selection is used when the owner decides to choose the contractor only on the basis of their qualification. When we say qualification here, we are considering the contractor's experience, or the constructor's experience, management plans, project organization, and the budget and schedule performance. So magre-request ka ng qualifications, or we call that the RFQ, request for qualification. Dito wala tayong pakialam sa pricing because we want the quality to be at its finest. Okay? So ang consider lang natin dito is the quality or the credentials of the qualification or the credentials of the bidder. Okay? So next would be payment of contracts. So we have 4. So lump sum. This is the most common type of contract. The construction manager and the owner agree on the overall cost of the construction project, and the owner is responsible for paying that amount whether the construction project exceeds or falls below the agreed price of payment. So when we say lump sum, like for example, going back to our example, yung 4 million, pag napag-agrihan na ng contract price natin is 4 million, kahit kumita si constructor or makapag-save ng malaking amount si constructor, considering na dapat na-deliver niya yung quality na dapat na i-deliver niya, ay okay lang yon. Yun pa rin ang babayaran ni client, which is 4 million pesos. Now, next would be the cost plus fee. This contract provides payment for the contractor, including the total cost of the project as well as the fixed fee or percentage of the total cost. So this cost is beneficial to the contractor since any additional cost will be paid even though they were unexpected for the owner. Pero hindi madalas nangyayari to, cost plus fee. So ibig sabihin, meron yung costing, sabihin natin yung 4 million na costing, nag-exceed. Let's say nag-exceed ng 200,000 due to unexpected additional cost or nagkaroon ng additional cost on the contractor side, which is 200,000, babayaran pa rin yun ni client. Okay? So, cost plus fee. Nangyayari lang ito if nagkaroon ng revision. May pinagawang revision. Minsan, madalas, nangyayari ito pag may pinagawang revision si client. Of course, pag may pinagawang revision si client, that is already which is out of the contract, kailangan bayaran. Okay? Kailangan bayaran yun ni client. Next is guaranteed maximum price or the GMP. This contract is the same as the cost plus fee contract, although there is a set price that overall cost and free to do not go above. So parehas sila, it's just that dapat dito medyo matalino si contractor side kasi hindi dapat siya lumagpas sa 4 million pesos. So magkaroon man ng additional cost, hindi babayaran ni client kasi meron tayong tinatawag na GMP. So hanggang 4 million lang yung price. The 4 million is the ceiling price. Okay? Next is unit price. This contract is issued when the cost cannot be determined ahead of time due to market what do we call that? Kasi may mga bagay na hindi kayang estimate or bigyan ng price ahead of time due to factors. Yeah, ilagay na lang natin sa term na yun. Due to factors limiting the pricing. Okay? So the owner provides materials with a specific unit price to limit spending. Okay? So what are the types of construction? Like what we have said kanina sa sectors of construction industry, we have the residential, commercial, heavy civil, industrial, and environmental. So residential housing is for society including individual homes, apartments, condominium, and townhouses. Residentials, of course, yan yung tinitirhan natin. Okay? So, next is commercial. When we say commercial, it refers to the construction dealing with needs of commerce, trade, and government. So, it can be a school, bank, hospital, theater, and government buildings. Anything that is used for recreational purposes of office purposes, yan. And recreational, office, school, yan. Mga commercial space yan. Next is heavy civil. But going back sa commercial space, anything that is I forgot the term. Anyways, balikan na lang natin later on. So heavy civil, the type of construction greatly impacts society since it deals with transportation. When we say civil, it deals with transportation. So you have roads, bridges, railroads, dams, tunnels, airports. Bakit kasama yung dams? Dam is so dams, tunnels, okay? So transportation ng water transportation, okay? So anything that deals with transportation, okay? Next is industrial. Industrial is connected with buildings that are used for different types of production. Anything that involves manufacturing or production of goods, that is industrial. So you have chemical plants, steel mills or refineries, manufacturing plants, and pipelines. Okay. And lastly, we have the environmental. So environmental used to be part of heavy civil, but it now has its own section. So since it deals with projects that improve the environment, so some examples are sanitary sewers. Okay, so it should improve the quality of disposed waste water and sludge, waste management, and clean water. So it cannot be avoided with that we are going to produce waste. We are to produce wastewater and sludge because it is part of nature uh, that we ang tamang term, it is part of our nature na what comes in must go out. Okay? So, kumakain, for example, papasok sa atin as food, we extract it in a form of waste. Okay? So as not to degrade, degenerate, degrade our environment, we have environmental sector to manage or to lessen the pollution that is being caused by our uh, wastes. Okay, so what are the construction management jobs? So we have planning engineer. So what is a planning engineer? So a planning engineer determines and develop the most suitable and economically viable construction and engineering methods for this subject. Okay, so for different kinds of project, of course, may mga iba't ibang economically viable and suitable methods for those projects. Okay, and it is also the responsibility of the planning engineer to estimate a time scale for a project and to ensure that the outlined deadlines are being met. So that is the role of a planning engineer. So sinisigurado niya na yung time scale is nasusundan and na-follow yung mga deadlines. Okay? Next would be a project coordinator. From the word itself, coordinator, nagko-coordinate. Okay? But by definition, project coordinators work with various members of the project team and the client to develop a timeline, create schedules, and oversee programs to make sure that goals are met on time. So the role of the project coordinator, siya yung nag-coordinate sa iba't ibang mga departments. Okay? So he or she is making sure na nagmi-meet yung mga schedule and hindi nagkakaroon ng overlapping. Okay? And siya yung nag-oversee ng mga progress, making sure that the goals are met on time. Okay? So project coordinators utilize spreadsheet to track budget, dates and other information. Okay? Next is a field engineer. When we say field engineer, most often than not, this is the entry level. Pag sinabi nating field engineer, you are the uh, hindi mo observer. You are the person of the company on the field na merong theoretical knowledge. Okay? So field engineers are engineering professionals who work mostly on the site in different setting. So they spend only small percentage of their time at an office. So sila yung mga nagbabantay sa mga workers, sila yung mga nag-check na yung mga nasa plano is na layout sa site ng tama. Okay? So kasama dyan ang inspection, installation ng new equipment, new technologies, dinadirect yung crew or yung worker, then nagkakonduct ng research and reporting on the project status. So field engineers also do that. Okay? So yeah, pero most often than not inspection, no? So inspection sa mga trabaho ng workers. So mini-make sure na nagagawa ng tama yung workers yung kanilang trabaho. Next is a quantity surveyor. So we have defined this in our quantity surveying. A quantity surveyor is a person in charge in everything that involves money from pre-construction, construction, and post-construction stage. Okay? Next would be a project engineer. So what is a project engineer? So a project engineer, uh, yeah, wait, ano yun? A project engineer's responsibility includes schedule preparation, pre-planning, and resource forecasting for engineering and other technical activities relating to the project. So that is the function of a project engineer. And it is also their function to manage project team resources and training and develop extensive project management experience and expertise. Okay? Next is a area superintendent. When we say area superintendent, ito yung parang head sa isang area or sa isang department. Okay? Next would be the project manager. The project manager, it is like the leader of the construction project in the site. Okay? From the contractor side. Okay? So construction project managers are responsible for planning and overseeing a specific project. Okay, so sabi sa inyo, sila yung head ng project sa site. Okay, or a wide range of different construction projects from beginning to end. It doesn't necessarily mean na porket project manager na siya sa isang project, hindi na siya pwede. There are many cases na project manager siya sa isang project and project manager din siya sa iba't ibang mga projects pa. Okay? Because he oversees the flow of the work in the construction site. So as to ensure that the works are on schedule, they are not having any delays, and the flow of the work is smooth. Okay? They balance the budget, keep track of supplies, collaborate with subcontractors, and ensure all regulations are met and permits acquired. So sila yung pinaka-head sa construction site. Okay? Next is an estimator. So an estimator is synonymous to a quantity surveyor. It's just that an estimator sa ano lang siya, sa pre-constructions most of the time. Sa pre-construction lang ang estimator. Okay? So if we are to uh, define them, quantity surveyors typically provide support before, during, and after the life of construction project, while estimators are mostly involved before the project begins. Okay? Yon. And what is an estimator? So an estimator will generate and manage estimates required for sales, pre-construction, and bidding efforts, provide estimates, budget control, and studies for projects and potential projects during business development, pre-construction, and construction phase of a project, and across all scopes of system and assemblies. So, most of the time, they are just present during pre-construction and construction phase lang kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng if there will be changes no during the construction phase, then of course money is involved, then things needs to be changed with respect to budgeting, okay, and reports and alike. So estimator, lead estimator, senior estimator. When we say lead estimator, he or she is the lead of a certain group of estimator. Okay, senior estimator, siya naman yung kumbaga parang siya yung senior sa grupo, and sa kanya nagko-consult si lead estimator. Now, chief of estimator, this is the estimator of all the estimators. So, for example, you have different department for the estimating team. So, for example, may pag sobrang laki ng project, may mga nadi-divide yung department ng pag-estimate. Okay? So, kumbaga, the chief estimator is the head of the department. Okay? So, ayan. Next is a field engineer. So, like what I've said, a field engineer is considered an entry-level position and and is responsible for paperworks and site inspection work sila rin yan, or site monitoring rather. Okay? So, during the pre-construction stage, a site investigation must take place. A site investigation takes place to discover if any steps need to be implemented on the job site. So, this is an order to get the site ready before the actual construction begins. This is also includes any unforeseen conditions such as historical artifacts or environmental problems. A soil test must be done to determine if the soil is in good condition to be built up upon. Okay, so a part of the pre-construction phase is a site investigation. So sa site investigation, we are going to check what is the condition of the site. If there might be some uh, factors that needs to be corrected, like for example, if there is um, may mga yung site ay may mga obstruction, like sabihin natin may mga malalaking bato that needs to be cleared before we start our construction. Now, for example, yung site naman is abandoned, tapos meron tayong existing structure that also needs to be cleared. So, sa site investigation, doon natin makikita yung mismong condition ng site. Okay, so doon natin na-assess whether we are good to go or there are needs to be cleared sa site. And soil test from geotechnical engineering, soil test, we need to check whether our soil is capable of bearing loads. Okay, so if that's the case, then what would be the soil capacity test that would be suited or that will be used to design our footing. Okay. Next is procurement. So sa procurement stage, it is when labor, materials, and equipment needed to complete the project are purchased. So procurement is the phase or the process of acquiring the needed resources. So this can be done by the general contractor if the company does their own work in the construction work. Now, if the general construction cannot do the work alone, then ipapasubcontract nila or ipapakontract nila sa ibang contractor yung certain scope of work, and we call them subcontractor or contractor. Okay? Or subcon. So subcon are contractors who specialize in one particular aspect of the construction work, such as concrete, welding, glass, or carpentry, and so on. So, yan, ipapasub-contract natin yan. So, general contractors are also called GenCon, to be short. So, subcons are hired the same way a general contractors or GenCons would be, which is through the bidding process. Purchase orders are also part of the procurement stages or stage. Sometimes, subcons no longer undergo bidding. Okay, so actually, for based from experience, we have seen that subcons did not undergo bidding process, but they were referred by someone who have worked with them from the past projects. Okay? But of course, chine-check pa rin naman yung qualifications ng company, ng subcon company. Okay? So, purchase order. A purchase order is used in various types of businesses. In this case, a purchase order is an agreement between a buyer and a seller that products purchased meet the required specifications for the agreed price. So, sa purchase order, nandyan yung agreement ni seller at saka ni buyer, and nandun yung mga specification. And dapat mamimit yun, mamimit yung specification at the agreed price. Okay? Now, after the pre-construction stage, we now have the construction phase. So the construction stage begins when pre-construction meeting brought together by the superintendent. So the pre-construction meeting is meant to make decisions dealing with work hours, material storage, quality control, and site access. Okay? So the next step is to move everything onto the construction site and set it all up. So for the work hours, it is an 8-hour per day working condition. Now for the material storage, dapat um, meron tayong storage facility. If there will be no storage facility, at least meron tayong what do we call that? Stay iba ka, bank house. Okay? So, ano na yun? Where is that? Material storage, work hours, material storage. And magkaiba yung material storage facility natin and yung ating staging area. When we say staging area, it is the place kung saan binabagsak yung mga materials from or coming from our supplier. And of course, pinaka-importante dito is quality control, QC. QA, QC, quality control, quality assurance, and access to the site because there are site locations that are far from urban areas, and we need to make sure that materials can go through our site. Okay, so that we have to have a good site access. Then the next step, yeah, is to move to the construction phase. So at this stage, construction monitoring and supervision is of great importance to ensure that a project is completed on time and on budget. Okay? So dapat hindi tayo nag-exceed sa budget natin, and in order to do that, we need to follow our schedule strictly. So while meeting all relevant regulations and quality standards. Next is the post-construction. So after the pre-construction, it would be the construction phase. After the construction phase, we are now on the post-construction. Okay? So for the post-construction, once the construction has been completed, there are specific steps that must be taken to prepare the building for occupancy. So hindi agad-agad na pag natapos na yung construction phase, pwede nang i-occupy yan. No. First, we need to do our project punch out. So a project punch out means that the project must be overlooked at for any issues before it is considered completely finished. So issues may include replacing a cracked tile on the floor or changing the color of the paint. Okay? So, if may sa project punch out, pag nagkaroon ng inspection, dapat minimake sure na everything is in order, everything is perfect. Okay? So, for example, meron tayong nakitang dalawang basag na tiles, kailangan palitan yon. And pag may nakikita tayo mga kailangan pang ayusin, nilalagay natin yon sa punch list. Okay? Pag sinabi nating punch list, yan yung mga listahan ng kailangan pang ayusin. Okay? Bago natin sabihin na completely finished. Okay. Next is substantial completion. So, during this stage, the architect for the project determines if the building meets every requirement and issues a certificate of substantial completion. So, after ng project punch out, na check na lahat ng nasa punch list, magkakaroon na tayo ng substantial completions. Kung saan i-check ng architect yung project kung na-meet ba lahat ng requirement para sa structure. Okay? Guaranteed maximum price. So this contract is the same as the cost plus fee contract. So although there is a set price, that all the overall cost and fee do not go above or beyond the said maximum price or the ceiling price. Unit price, unit price, this contract is used when the cost, na doble. Okay? Anyways, these are the project stages. So we have the design, the pre-construction, and we have the occupancy or the operational. So for the pre-construction or sa design phase, actually it is part of the pre-construction. Okay? So the design stage contains a lot of steps: programming and feasibility, schematic design, design development, and contract documents. It is the responsibility of the design team to ensure that the design meets all building codes and regulations. So lahat ng mga codes natin and lahat ng codes, regulations and codes must be met. Okay? So like for example, sa isang comfort room, what is the minimum area and dimension for a comfort room? Dapat nasusunod yung mga yon. Okay? Dahil chine-check yan bago magkaroon ng turnover. Yung katulad ng sabi natin kanina. Okay? So that is substantial completion. Okay? So it is the responsibility of the designer team to make sure that everything meets all the codes and regulations. It is during this design stage that the bidding process takes place. Okay? So bakit dito nagkakaroon ng design ng bidding process? Kasi dito natin pwedeng i-check yung ating capability na babaan yung pricing in terms of sa bidding natin. Okay? So yan. Or saan tayo pwedeng magbawas, saan tayo mas pwedeng makamura yung client in terms of pricing. Okay? So dito nagkakaroon ng adjustment in terms of sa design. Okay? Programming and feasibility. So the needs, goals, and objectives must be determined for the building. Decisions must be made on the building size, number of rooms, how the space would be used, and who will be using the space. So this must all be considered to begin the actual design of the building. Though more or less, if it is a residential, it is the decision of the owner. So somehow, meron na siyang idea na i-coordinate niya kay architect. Now, if it is a building, of course, again, we need to have the consultation from the architect. Okay? So, ano ba yung function? Gaano karaming rooms? Okay? Gaano kalaki yung building? Yan. So, that needs to be considered, of course. Next would be the schematic design. So, schematic designs are sketches used to identify spaces, shape, and patterns. Materials, size, colors, and textures must be considered in the sketch. Okay? So, dito natin ipapakita kay client kung okay ba yung ganitong plano. Okay? Sa schematic design. So, ito yung rooms, ganito kalaki yung rooms, ganito yung mga ilalagay na finishing touches, yan, yung mga ganon. Design development. This step requires research and investigation into what materials and equipment will be used as well as their cost. So, pag dito sa schematic design, nag-umokay na si client or medyo okay na kay client yung itsura, then sa design development, dito na natin lalagyan ng kanyang architecture, more or less aesthetics rather. Dito na tayo magkakaroon ng aesthetics. And from there, titignan na natin, dyan na papasok yung mga pricing in terms of materials, equipments, yan. And contract documents. So, contract documents are the final drawings and specifications of the construction project. They are used by contractors to determine their bid while builders use them for construction process. So, contract documents can also be called working drawing. So, yung mga working drawing natin, these are already signed documents, no? Approved documents. So, nandiyan na yung specifications for the construction. Now, these are being used by the contractors to determine their bid kasi nandiyan na yung nandiyan na yung pricing, nandiyan na. Okay, bill of materials and cost estimates, that is a contract documents. Okay? Now, builders, ginagamit nila to sa construction process. Okay? Kasi nandun yung mga specifications. kung gaano kakapal yung, for example, yung slab, ano yung width and the depth of the beam, yan, yung mga ganyan. Okay? So, that's why we call it the working drawing. Kasi doon na tayo magre-rely pag nagko-construct na tayo ng structure. Okay. Next is now the pre-construction stage. Okay. So the pre-construction stage begins when the owner gives a notice to proceed to the contractor that they have chosen through the bidding process. A notice to proceed is when the owner gives permission to the contractor to begin their work on the project. So, pag nagbigay na si owner ng notice to proceed, then our project will now start. Okay? So, we are now going to start from excavation, clearing and grabbing, excavation and so on and so forth. The first step is to assign the project team, which includes the project manager, the contract administrator, superintendent, and the field engineer. Of course, we need to designate first our organizational chart. Okay? So the project manager is the person in charge of the project team. Contract administrator, the contract administrator assists the project manager as well as the superintendent with the details of the construction contract. Okay. While the superintendent, it is the superintendent's job to make sure everything is on schedule, including flow of material, deliveries, and equipment. They are also in charge of coordinating on-site construction activities. Now, so for the superintendent, uh, yeah, kailangan siguraduhin niya na on schedule para siguradong on schedule yung ating activities, dapat yung materials natin on schedule din. So, it is his work that, kunyari nakikita niya hanggang dito lang yung materials natin, dapat before maubos yung materials or habang paubos yung materials, may darating or nakapag-order na siya para pag naubos yun, meron ulit magagamit. Okay? Kasi pag wala tayong materials, then there is no work. Okay? So, we are wasting time, therefore we are wasting money. And the field engineer is considered an entry-level position and is responsible for paperwork and site monitoring. Okay, so during the pre-construction stage, a site investigation must take place. So a site investigation takes place to discover okay. Next is substantial completion. So what is substantial completion? The architect, na-define na natin yun kanina, substantial completion. So, this certificate announces the official completion of the project. Maski sabihin natin, tapos na yung construction phase, wala nang ginagawa. Hanggat hindi tayo nakakakuha ng substantial completion from the architect, hindi pa kompleto yung construction phase. And for the final inspection, yung final inspection after substantial completion is done by building officials once the certificate of substantial completion has been issued. Now, if nag-okay sila, wala silang nakitang fault or wala silang nakitang kailangan ayusin, then they will now give the certificate of occupancy. So it is being issued by the building official, which informs the owner that it is now safe to occupy. This is issued by the building officials after the final inspection from the government. Okay? Then final documentation. This provides information on the building to the owner for future references. This includes warranties, operational manuals, inspection and testing reports, and record drawings. So anything na kailangan nilang malaman pag nag-transfer na sila, those documents will be given or handed to them. Okay? Yan. If there are operational manuals to be followed. Okay? And the final completion occurs when all required paperwork and documentation is complete, including all payments to the contractor are done. So, nagkaroon na ng bayaran, tapos na lahat ng negotiation, tapos na lahat ng paperworks, then final completion na. Then, after that, we can now proceed to the occupancy. Once the owner moves into the building, a warranty period begins. This is to ensure that all materials, equipment, and quality meet the expectation of the owner that are included within their contract. Okay? So, itong warranty na to, this warranty comes from the contractor side or, the contractor side. Kumbaga, magkakaroon ng liability yung contractor if nagkaroon ng nagkaroon ng, for example, nasira, which is wala namang cause or walang parang natural or external factor na nag-cause, then warranty yon nung owner from the constructor. Okay? So, yeah. Then, issues resulting from construction. We have noise control and dust and mud. So, these are the common issues. Okay? Maingay sa construction site, maalikabok, at maputik sa construction site because we are starting from nothing. Okay? Kaya madumi at maingay sa site. Next would be the environmental protections. So, storm water pollution. As a result of construction, the soil is displaced from its original location, which can possibly cause environmental problems in the future. Runoff can occur during storms. So, pag malakas yung ulan, nagkakaroon ng runoff ng water. Okay? So, which transfer harmful pollutants through the soil to the rivers, lakes, wetlands, and coastal areas. So, dito dapat mayroon din tayong mitigation. Okay? So, kasama yan sa mga sa site investigation na fino-foresee na tine-check natin sa site investigation. So, what are the possible na calamities na pwedeng mangyari? For example, yun nga, pwede magkaroon ng landslide, pwede magkaroon ng flooding, yan, kasama yan during the site investigation. Kasi doon nga natin chine-check yung mismong site condition. Next is endangered species. If endangered species have been found on the construction site, the site must be shut down for quite some time. The construction site must be shut down for as long as it takes for authorities to make a decision on the situation. So once the situation has been assessed, the contractor makes the appropriate accommodations to not disturb the species. Because take note, you are the foreign one if you are to construct a structure on a certain area. Okay? So, meron kasi tayong tinatawag na meron tayong tinatawag na preservation of endangered animals. So, may mga batas din na nagpo-protect sa mga animals na naninirahan sa wild. Okay? Next is vegetation. So there may often be particular trees or other vegetation that must be protected on the job site. So this may require fences or security tape to warn builders that they must not be harmed. Okay? So a good example of this is yung mga matatandang mga puno, yung mga umaabot na ng hundreds of years. And even for typical trees, hindi pwede basta-bastang nagpuputol ng trees. If we are going to cut trees, then we need to apply, and even for building construction, it's part of getting building permit to get an ECC, Environmental Compliance Certificate. So, kinukuha yun sa DNREMB division. Okay? So, doon kailangan din ng EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. So, yung impacts, sociological, economical impacts of the project. Okay? So, hindi ka pwedeng magputol basta-basta ng puno. We need to have or to get permit from the DENR. Okay? Next is wetlands. So, the contractor must take accommodations so that erosion and water flow are not affected by deconstruction. So any liquid spills must be maintained due to contaminants that may enter the wetlands. So if we are going to how our structure, we also need to consider erosion and water flowing outside uh, of our uh, construction site. So it should not affect or destroy the adjacent um, natural features. Okay? In historical or cultural artifacts, artifacts may include arrowhead, pottery shards, and bone. All work comes to a halt if any artifacts are found and will not resume until they can be properly examined and removal from the area. Okay? So pag may nahukay na bungkal na artifacts, mag-i-stop definitely muna yung construction natin. Okay? So, construction activity and documentation. So, first, kailangan i-document our project meetings. So, project meetings take place at scheduled intervals to discuss the progress on the construction site and if there are any concerns or issues. So, it is important to discuss the progress so that everyone can be aware of where the project is currently standing and to make sure that the goal will be met within the specified time frame. And the discussion and any other decisions made at the meeting must be documented. So, yan yung tinatawag nating minutes of meetings. Okay, diaries, logs, and daily field reports. Diaries, logs, and daily field reports tracked of the activities on a job site each day. Okay? So diaries, each member of the project team is expected to keep a project diary. The diary contains summaries of the day's events in the members' own words. So they are used to keep track of any daily work activity, conversation, observations, and or other relevant information regarding the construction activities. Diaries can be referred to when disputes arise, and a diary happens to contain information connected with the disagreement. So diaries that are handwritten can be used as evidence in court. Okay, so diaries, this more often than not, this is your personal experience of the day in work. Okay, so ano mga nangyari, may ano na pag-usapan, what actions were done, yung mga ginawa mo. So i-jot down mo yon. Okay, so the word itself, diary. Okay, so kinikwento mo yung araw mo. Okay, next are logs. So logs are keep track of the regular activities on the job site, such as phone logs, delivery logs, and RFI. So request for information logs. So anything that comes into the site, may it be materials delivery or um, may lalabas ng trabaho mo, ng site na trabahador mo, or nandyan din yung mga time in, time out logs, yan. So, those are documents. Next is daily field reports. So, daily field reports are a more formal way of recording information on the job site. They contain information that includes the day's activities, temperature, and weather conditions, delivered equipment or materials, visitors on site, and equipment used that day. So daily field reports, these are the things that are happening around you, and it is a more formal way. Okay, so mas informative to. For example, ganitong oras dumating yung delivery mo, anong materials yung dumating, may bumisita ba, sino yung mga bumisita, yan. So everything must be recorded. Okay, next, for the labor, we have visual records and web cameras. Resolving disputes. So in resolving disputes, there will always be a time na, for example, hopefully wala mangyaring ganon. Pero hindi maiwasan na sa site nagkakaroon ng mga hindi pagkakaintindihan yung mga trabahador or iba't ibang mga parts or iba't ibang mga members ng iba't ibang departments. Okay? So in solving disputes, we have first the mediation. So mediation uses a third-party mediator to resolve any disputes. The mediator helps both disputing parties to come to a mutual agreement. I repeat, to come to a mutual agreement. So this process ensures that no attorneys become involved in the dispute and is less time consuming. So pag-uusapin mo yung dalawang tao, then you will come up to an amicable settlement. Okay? If that would be the case. Or kung nakapagpatawaran, then well and good. Okay? Next is a mini trial. So a mini trial takes more time and money than mediation. The mini trial takes place in an informal setting and involves some type of advisor or attorney that must be paid. The disputing parties may come to an agreement or the third party advisor may offer their advice. Agreement is non-binding and can be broken. So dito magkakaroon na tayo ng legal counsel na mag-a-advise on both parties. So kung ano yung mas makakabuti. Okay? Na based on his professional advice. Next would be arbitration. So arbitration is the most costly and time-consuming way to resolve a dispute. Each party is represented by an attorney, while witness and evidences are presented. Once all information is provided on the issue, the arbitrator makes a ruling which provides the decision. The arbitrator provides the final decision on what must be done, and it is a binding agreement between each of the disputing parties. So ito, may evidence nang involved, and each side of the party or both parties will be heard. So, both parties will be heard, evidences will be laid out, then from there, magkakaroon ng ruling. And kung ano mapag-usapan dito, it will be on a black and white basis. So, magkakaroon ng pirmahan. Then, if hindi magkasundo pa rin sa arbitration, walang napagkasundoan sa arbitration, then, doon na tayo pwedeng pumunta sa legal court. Okay? So the reference of this topic is The Construction Management by Max Fajardo. So in managing a project rather, what you are dealing is time, and it is usually controlled by the time it takes to accomplish a task. So when estimating labor, we will be using the DPWH Estimate Guide and DPWH Blue Book. Okay, though hindi siya pwedeng i-share because it is copyrighted. So once you estimate the duration of each activity, you can now arrange the sequence of those activities in order to optimize time and manpower. So the first thing that you need to do is to estimate the duration. So pag meron na tayong duration ng activities natin, then we can now sequence our activities. Then if it is for this reason that we will avoid quantity of materials estimate and focus more on the labor and equipment estimate. So the cost of equipment is based on association of carriers and equipment lessors, or it is ACEL. Okay, so yun yung ginagamit natin for equipment cost. So in the following module, we will now be discussing the different activities in a project with explanation on things to consider. Take note, when we refer to days, we are actually referring to an 8-hour workday and not 24 hours. I repeat, pag sinasabi nating one workday, that is equivalent to 8-hour working time. Okay? Hindi tayo nagre-refer sa 24 hours when we are speaking of working hours. Okay? So that sums up module 1.